going to talk about inguinal hernia. So we have just now we have finished up that our CME inguinal hernia. So I'm going to talk about that. What are the multiple choice questions we have? You have answered for that in during the quiz program. The same thing in detail I'm going to discuss. Is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Whiteboard. Yeah. Okay, we'll start with the first question, that is, what is the length of the inguinal canal? This is a very one of the basic common question. All of you know the answer. So inguinal canal, the length of the inguinal canal, it is roughly around, it is 3.75 centimeter. Okay, or else you can call it as 4 centimeter is the answer. Okay, just briefly discuss about this inguinal canal. Inguinal canal is an canal, it's an oblique canal extending from deep inguinal ring to the superficial inguinal ring. Deep inguinal ring is otherwise called as, it is otherwise called as internal ring. Superficial inguinal ring, it is otherwise called as external ring. And deep inguinal ring, it is an opening, it is an oval shaped opening or C shaped opening or inverted U shaped opening. It is an opening in the layer called fascia transversalis. Whereas superficial inguinal ring, it is a triangular opening which is present in the layer called external oblique aponeurosis. Okay, so deep inguinal ring will be like this, and superficial inguinal ring it will be like this. This oblique canal, it is a inguinal canal, and the length is around 4 centimeter. Okay, so these are the common basic anatomy you should know in the inguinal canal. Okay, question number 2, what complication will you expect in this patient? So I have put a radiograph, that is X-ray of the pelvis. X-ray of the pelvis, but you can see small white dots, okay, everywhere from here to here. From here to here, you can see in the pelvis some small white dots are there, which is nothing but which is spiral tackers. That is, it is metallic in nature. So this spiral tacker is used to fix the mesh in the inguinal hernia surgery, particularly laparoscopic hernia surgery. This tacker is useful. If you see, watch carefully, there are multiple tackers are applied. Usually we don't put so much tackers, but if you watch this picture carefully, there are so many tackers are there. What will happen if you fire so many tackers? The patient, there will be entrapment will be there. There will be more fibrosis, and you will get the entrapment, and patient will develop a condition called inguinodynia. Inguinodynia, which is nothing but it is a chronic groin you will get in the post-operative period when you operate for the inguinal hernia. Okay, and this is the picture. It is taken from the Bayesian Law 27th edition. We see that it is clearly given a radiograph showing the spiral tacks causing chronic pain after surgery. What surgery? That is transabdominal preperitoneal repair. Okay, the repair. This surgery, what you are seeing, is a post-operative case of transabdominal preperitoneal repair. Okay, so this is taken from the Bayesian Law 27th edition. Okay, with that we'll go to the next question. Okay, so this is the next question. So what is the answer for this question? Question number 3. Yeah, you have answered for this, no? What is the answer? Oral, oral 2. Okay, so this is answer for this question is oral 2. So we will discuss why I am telling this oral 2. Okay, so this is a new classification, okay, European Hernia Society classification, and what they are telling in that classification. Again, this is also taken from the Balian law. You can see that. So in that classification, they are classifying basically into whether the lesion is a primary or recurrent. So that is the first thing they are analyzing. Okay, primary or recurrent. That is the first one. If it is primary, you have to write it as P, and if it is recurrent, you have to write it as R. And other classification is type, that is lateral, medial, femoral. So lateral, that is L, that stands for it is an indirect inguinal hernia, whereas medial it stands for direct inguinal hernia, and the F stands for femoral hernia. And based on the defect size, that is a finger breadth, that is 1.5 centimeter, assumed to be 1.5 centimeter. If it is 1.5 centimeter, you can mention as 1. If it is 3 centimeter, you have to mention as 2. Okay, so here the question, what you are seeing, that question, it's a recurrent direct inguinal hernia. It is a recurrent, so recurrent it stands for R, indirect it stands for L, and with a defect of size 3, so what you have to write, it as RL2. Okay, so this commonly you will get these type of questions. Again, I asked another question also based on this European Hernia Society classification. Okay, we'll go to the next question. That is a question number 4. All are open suture repair except Bessini, Desada, Scholdis, Lichtenstein. What is the answer?
Lichtenstein.
Yes, it is Lichtenstein. Okay, again, this is a classification that is taken from the Balian law. You can broadly divide the hernia surgeries like this. Okay, number 1, herniatomy. So, what is herniatomy? Herniatomy, which is nothing but your hernial sac will be there. You are opening the hernial sac. Okay, and if any content is there, reduce the content, do the transfixation of hernial sac. This is called herniatomy. Ideally done in cases of congenital hernia, or else congenital hydrocele. Then all the pediatric, so patient they are having hernia in the pediatric, most of the time it will be congenital only. So herniatomy is ideally indicated in case of congenital hernia and congenital hydrocele. And herniatomy is also a part of the procedure. If you get an indirect inguinal hernia, herniatomy is the first step. It is the first step in the surgery. After that only you can plan for the repair and all. And the next one is the open suture repair. Open suture repair is the Bessini's repair, Scholdis repair, Desada repair. What is this Bessini's repair? What do you mean by that? Approximation of the conjoint tendon and inguinal ligament. This is called Bessini's repair. Scholdis repair is the double breasting. Okay, double breasting of fascia transversalis. That is called Scholdis repair. What is Desada's repair? Where you will keep a strip of external oblique aponeurosis, okay, as like mesh, but it is a natural one to cover the defect. So these are all open repair as well as it is a anatomical repair. Next one is the open flat mesh repair. That is a common surgery we are doing, that is Lichtenstein tension free hernioplasty. So you will use a polypropylene mesh and you will keep that one. This is flat mesh. And another mesh that is complex mesh is there, open complex mesh repair. Here you will use a plug. If defect is there, a mesh will be designed in such a way it will plug that. So that is called plug repair. Another one is the hernia system. Hernia system means if suppose this is the defect, okay, you will be having 2 layer of mesh. Okay, you will be having, so above the defect you will be having one mesh, below the defect you will be having one mesh, and these 2 mesh will be interconnected through the defect, okay, by again a mesh. So this is called hernia Prolene system. Usually you can call it as hernia Prolene system. That is usually the mesh will come in the polypropylene. Okay, this is hernia system. You will be having 2 layer of mesh and it will be connected, interconnected. This is a complex mesh repair. Next one is the open preperitoneal repair. Open preperitoneal repair. The common example is the Stoppa's repair. Stoppa's repair. So this is otherwise called as GPVRS. Okay, GPVRS, which is nothing but you are going to keep a huge mesh. It's a chevron shaped mesh. Okay, usually the mesh size will be 30 cross 30 centimeter size to cover the hernial defect, that you have to keep it in the preperitoneal plane. This is called Stoppa's repair, and Stoppa's repair is the basis for the all laparoscopic repair. Okay, so the laparoscopic repair, finally laparoscopic repair, there are two types are there: TEP, totally extraperitoneal; TAPP, transabdominal preperitoneal repair. Okay, so these are the surgeries available for inguinal hernia. Again, this is a basic one you should know. Okay, with that, we'll go to the next question. Okay, what is the answer for this question? Question number 5. Which mesh is a preferred one? What is the answer?
Light and large pore.
Very good. It is a light and large. So why it is preferred? Why you have to take light and large? Is there any reason? Is there?
Sir, is it because serum collection should be?
Okay. Again, this is the words taken from the Bayesian law. You can see that the highlighted yellow one, no? So the meshes, the lightweight and larger pore mesh, you have to prefer. So why do you want to prefer? That the reason they have given that it is a better tissue integration. So it gives a better tissue integration. That is the first one. Then followed by shrinkage. All the mesh usually, if you are keeping a mesh this size, it will go shrink. Even 50% of the mesh also can go for the shrinkage. That's why you will get a recurrence also in some cases. So, but here if you are using a lightweight and large pore mesh, you will be getting a less shrinkage of the mesh. And third one is it is more flexible. So, if you see some meshes, it will be very rigid. But here, if you use this type of mesh, it will be more flexible. And fourth one is the comfort, patient comfort, it will be improved. For these 4 reasons only, you have to ideally you should use the lightweight large pore mesh. Okay. The question number 6, what is the answer? Identify the hernia.
Richter hernia.
Yeah, okay. This is a straightforward question. So what you are seeing is the Richter's hernia. So what is Richter's hernia? Which is nothing but a part of circumference of the bowel will get struck into the defect. Consider this is the defect, only the part of the bowel wall. Okay, not the whole. So this is the whole circumferential wall is there, but only a part of the bowel wall will get struck into the Richter's hernia. This type of Richter's hernia commonly seen in cases of femoral hernia. So classical, because your femoral ring will be present like this, some part of the bowel will be presenting like this. What are the features of Richter's hernia? In what way it differs from other hernia? That is the most important thing. Again, this is a passage. Again, it is taken from the Bayesian law. Okay, what is the importance? The main thing is, I already told it's a part of the circumference of the bowel wall. Okay, so if you see that almost all the hernia, bowel obstruction will be present, but in this type of bowel obstruction, it won't be there. So you don't have a classical presentation of the intestinal obstruction. Okay, but bowel without obstruction also it can become necrotic, so and perforate with a life-threatening consequences. Okay, so femoral hernia is often commonest presentation is a femoral hernia. Okay, so this hernia is one of the dangerous hernia because it won't present with a typical clinical presentation of an inguinal hernia. So this hernia you should be careful. Next question we'll discuss. Okay. Question number 7. Most common type of hernia in females. CME also, one of the speakers specifically mentioned about this one. What is the common type, most common type of hernia in females?
Femoral.
Indirect.
No, it is not femoral. It is an indirect inguinal hernia. Okay. So just keep in your mind, this is femoral hernia is common in females. Femoral hernia is common in females. But even in females, the most common type of hernia is the indirect inguinal hernia. Okay. So this is a standard question. So don't think that femoral hernia. Femoral hernia is common in females, but in females the most common type is the indirect inguinal hernia. Okay, and next question. Triangle of doom is bounded by all except. What is the answer?
Cooper's ligament.
Yeah, it is Cooper's ligament. Okay, so we will just discuss about this. What is this triangle of doom? What is this? The triangle of doom is very important in particularly the laparoscopic anatomy of the inguinal canal. There are two triangles are very important. Number one, this is triangle of doom. Another one is the triangle of pain. Okay, we will discuss what is this triangle of doom. Triangle of doom, this structure is formed by the apex of the triangle is formed by the deep inguinal ring. Okay, so this is the apex of the triangle. This is formed by deep inguinal ring. So this is the posterior anatomy. So that means you have to see from inside. Okay, what in open surgery, what you are doing, that is an anterior approach. For laparoscopic, it is an posterior approach. So you are seeing all these structures from inside the abdomen. Okay, this is a posterior approach. So deep ring is it is the one that is forming the apex of the triangle. That is the one. Okay. On the medial border, medially it is formed by vas deferens. What you are seeing is the vas deferens, and laterally you are seeing the vessels, that is testicular artery and vein. And below, usually for laparoscopic surgery, we have to cut the peritoneum and reflect the peritoneum. Here the posterior, that is the lower border, it is formed by the reflected portion of the peritoneum, peritoneal reflection. So medially vas deferens, laterally gonadal vessels, and below by the peritoneal reflection. The content of this triangle is the external iliac artery and vein. Why it is called doom? Again, any injury, or if you fire any tacker in this location, there will be a torrential hemorrhage and you will lose the patient. It is one of the life-threatening complication. So that's why it's called triangle of doom. That we'll go to the next question. Okay, what surgery patient underwent? This question we have discussed already. Here the procedure I already told, it is a bilateral transabdominal preperitoneal repair. Bilateral transabdominal preperitoneal, because you see the tackers on both the sides and so many tackers are there, then it is almost indicative of a TAP procedure. What is the question number 10? Method of reduction of inguinal hernia. What is this method called? It is called taxis. It is called taxis. What do you mean by taxis? It is a method of reduction of inguinal hernia. What you have to do, you have to put the patient in supine position, and after that, suppose imagine this is the hernia. This is a hernia which is presenting with the swelling is there. It is not reducible. So this taxis is a maneuver. What you have to put the patient in supine position and then flex the knee. You have to flex the knee, and as well as in the hip joint, you have to do three movements. One is the adduction, you have to do adduction, internal rotation, and flexion of the thigh. Okay, by doing this, there will be relaxation of the superficial pillars of the superficial inguinal ring. Pillars of superficial inguinal ring will be relaxed and lower abdominal muscles will be relaxed. So that what you have to do, the swelling is present like this. The left hand you have to guide the content. Using your left hand you have to guide the content, and right hand you have to give the pressure over the fundus of the swelling, so that the swelling can be reduced in toto. This maneuver is called taxis. Okay. Okay, what is this? What is the answer for this question? Pascal's law is used in which type of hernia repair? What's the answer?
Stoppa's preperitoneal repair.
Yeah, it is toe pause pre-peritoneal repair. Okay, what is Pascal's law? Any idea? So it's a simple law. So I'll put a picture here. It's a simple law. So consider this is the bathtub. Okay, consider this is the bathtub. There will be a stopper is there. This is the location for the stopper. So ideally you have to put the stopper from inside. Okay, ideally you put a stopper from inside and fill it with water. Okay, so this pressure exerted by the water, it will fit tight so that there won't be any leakage of water. So this is called Pascal's law. Okay, so all the intra-abdominal pressure, that is when you are taking the inguinal surgery, they are taking it as intra-abdominal pressure. Here, so suppose if you keep the stopper outside, what will happen? Because of increased pressure, it will come off and there will be continuous water leakage will be there. That is called Pascal's law. So based on this law only, if you are keeping the mesh, okay, from inside, that is in the pre-peritoneal plane, the intra-abdominal pressure works against it and causes the mesh in position. So that is called Pascal's law. So that is applicable in cases of Stoppa's pre-peritoneal repair as well as all laparoscopic inguinal hernia surgeries like TEP and TAP. Okay, we'll go to the next question. Strangulation without obstruction is seen in. What is the answer?
Richter's hernia.
Yeah, you got the two options are correct. So Richter's hernia and femoral hernia. Okay, both options are correct only. But if you want to take the most suitable option, try to take the Richter's hernia, because I already told the Richter's hernia it will present as a femoral hernia. Okay, the most suitable option is the Richter's hernia. Both of the answers are correct only, but try to take the better option. Okay, we'll go to the next question. Question number 8. Okay, question number 13. Which of the following is a content of Litter's hernia? What is the answer?
Meckel's diverticulum.
Yeah, it is Meckel's diverticulum. Sorry. Okay, so Meckel's diverticulum. If the content is Meckel's diverticulum, this is called Litter's hernia. If the content is appendix, it is called as
Amman hernia.
Amman's hernia. Very good. Amman's hernia. Okay, if the content is urinary bladder, usually urinary bladder will be a content of sliding hernia. Sliding hernia. Otherwise, it is called as hernia en glissade. Okay, hernia en glissade. Then circumference of intestinal canal already discussed, that is Richter's hernia. Okay. Again, another basic anatomical question. Deep inguinal ring is a deficiency in the transversal dysphagia that we discussed already. We'll go to the question number 15. Okay, which is the first sign of strangulated inguinal hernia?
Tenderness.
Yes, it is tenderness. Yes, very good. It is tenderness. Okay, and it will be tender and tense also. But the initial presentation is all these features will be there, but the initial first sign is the tenderness. Okay, ilioinguinal is damaged while incising what layer? External oblique aponeurosis. Okay, in CME also they have clearly told about that ilioinguinal, the content of the inguinal canal is the spermatic cord. Partly it forms ilioinguinal nerve also. It is a part of the content, but it is not coming from the deep inguinal ring. It is not coming from deep inguinal ring. In midway it is coming and going through the superficial inguinal ring. It's a part of the content. It is not a complete content. Okay, so ilioinguinal nerve is present along with the cord structures just below the external oblique aponeurosis. While we are cutting, you try to preserve the ilioinguinal round if possible. Okay. Okay, so this what is answer 17? Viscera forms wall of which hernia?
Sliding hernia.
Yeah, it's a sliding hernia. Sliding hernia, the definition for sliding hernia as the part of the hernial sac wall, it is formed by some viscera. So if it is the right side, your content will be cecum. If it is left side, your content will be sigmoid colon. If it is bilateral, your content most of the time will be urinary bladder. Okay, according to Naigus classification, femoral hernia is dash type. What is the answer?
3.
3C.
3C. Okay. Okay, I'll show that what is this Naigus classification. Okay, so this is a Naigus classification. So Naigus classification, basically they are dividing into 4 types are there. Type 1. Type 1 is an indirect inguinal hernia where everything is normal. Your ring will be normal and that is the type 1. Type 1 is the indirect inguinal hernia where the internal ring, that is a deep inguinal ring, is normal. It is not patulous. And typically it's a type of, it's an example for congenital hernia. Okay, typically seen in infant children and small adults. Type 2. Type 2 is an indirect, again it is an indirect inguinal hernia, but you can able to see that the internal ring is enlarged. It is patulous. That is a deep inguinal ring is patulous, and but without the floor of the inguinal canal, without impingement on the floor of the inguinal canal. So it is does not descend extend into the scrotum. That means it is present in the inguinal region itself. This is type 2. And type 3. So type 3 again you are divided into 3A, BC. 3 is direct hernia, 3B is indirect. But you, what are the things you are told in the type 2? Everything will be positive here. There are other types also. For example, indirect sliding hernia, scrotal hernia, pantaloon hernia. All these hernia it comes under type 3B. Type 3 is the femoral hernia. Again, type 4 is recurrent hernia. Recurrent hernia, and there also A to D is there. A to D. A means that is indirect, direct, femoral, and mixed type combination. So this is the Naigus classification. So according to Naigus classification, femoral hernia is type 3C. Okay, and go to next question. Question number 19. Okay, content of epiploidy is intestine. True or false?
False.
These are all straightforward question. False. Epiploidy is nothing but is otherwise called as omentocele. The content is omentum. Okay. Inferior epigastric vessel present dash to the deep inguinal ring.
Medial.
Medial. Okay. So this based on these inferior epigastric vessels only you will divide. You can identify intraoperatively whether it is a direct hernia or indirect hernia. Okay. We'll go to question number 21. Okay, 24-year-old male patient presented with left side direct inguinal hernia, again EHS. What is the type here? It's a primary. So it's a primary. There is no history of recurrence, no. So it's a primary. Then direct inguinal hernia. Direct means it is a medial M, and the size of the defects 3 centimeter means that is 2. So PM2 is the answer for this question. Okay. 55-year-old male patient presented swelling in the inguinal region. On reducing the swelling, first part is difficult to reduce. What is the diagnosis?
Enterocele.
Yeah, enterocele. So they are discussed now, enterocele. Just opposite to that is the omentocele. First part is the easy to reduce. Okay, this differentiation you should know as you are going to examine a patient. This differentiation is a must one. Next one, 20. Okay, this is an intraoperative picture of inguinal hernia. What is the diagnosis?
Lipoma of cord.
Very good. Lipoma of the cord. So what you can able to see the picture everywhere there is yellowish fat is present. It is the lipoma of the cord. Okay, then what is the treatment lipoma of the cord? Nothing but you have to excise the lipoma of the cord. Excision is the treatment of choice for the lipoma of the cord. Okay. What is the weight of the lightweight mesh?
Less than 40 grams per meter square.
Yes, it is less than 40 gram per meter square. Okay, so this is also taken from the common. These are all standard questions. They are keep on asking. Okay, so this is again taken from the Bayesian law, where you can see that less than 40 grams per meter square you can call it as lightweight mesh. More than 80 gram per meter square you can call it as a heavy mesh. We'll have some discussion about this one, types of hernia. So this is the basic difference, clinical difference between how we differentiate enterocyte from omentocyte. Enterocyte, all know that this content is the intestine, and omentocyte is the content. If you percuss, because the bowel will be the content, if you percuss over that, it will be resonant on percussion. Whereas this is omentum, it is dull on percussion. Here bowel sounds present, bowel sounds absent. Here the peristalsis, visible intestinal peristalsis can be seen. Here there is absence of peristalsis. On reduction, you can able to hear a gurgling sound. Here there is no sound, and you are having a doughy feel. Whereas here you will be having a elastic in consistency, and here it is more difficult to reduce in the last part. Here the omentocyte is last portion is more difficult to reduce than the first. Question number 25. Okay, what is the shape of the inguinal ring? Yeah, again straightforward question. This is triangular, already discussed. Okay, X-ray of the abdomen of the obstructed inguinal hernia. Bowel seen here. What is this bowel?
Jejunum.
Jejunum. Why? Why you are telling this is jejunum? Jejunum is characterized by valvulae coniventis. What is this valvulae coniventis? What is this valvulae coniventis? Any idea? See, just imagine this is a bubble where you will be having the mucosal folds. Intraluminal you can able to see the mucosal fold. So this mucosal fold, entire circumference the mucosal fold will be present, and this mucosal fold will be present at a regular interval. So this structure is called as valvulae coniventis. This you can able to see in the X-ray. Okay. So if you watch, if you see this X-ray, I will just mark that one. Okay. So this is it. It is appearing like this. It is at a regular interval. Okay, regular interval you can able to see. So that's why you are telling this is the jejunum. Whereas ileum is it is characterless. It is described by Wangenstein. It is characterless. It appears like a lead pipe. Okay. Whereas cecum will be a dilated pouch. It is presenting with a dilated pouch with air shadows you can able to see. The colon, it will be presenting with ostral folds. The difference between the small intestine and large intestine is the ostral folds, it will be present at a incomplete. It is incomplete. Number one, it is incomplete. Number two is it will be present just away from each other. Okay, you can see that it is away from each other. One nostril fold here, one nostril fold here, again another nostril fold here. So it will be presenting away from each other. So ostral folds will be the characteristic feature in case of colon. Okay, so that's why you are telling this is a jejunum. And another important thing is it is present in the central part of the abdomen. You can see the vertebra. It is present, all the bowel is present in the central part of the abdomen. That's why you are telling this is jejunum. Question number 20. 10. Okay. Okay, what is the answer? Hormone related to the hernia development. What is the answer?
Calcitonin related.
Yeah, it is a calcitonin gene related peptide. Okay, next question is fixing a strip of external oblique aponeurosis to reinforce the inguinal canal. This is also you discussed. It is called as Desardas repair. Okay, this is a Desardas repair. We'll show it you that reference. Okay, so this is again it is taken from the Bayesian law. There are two important things, that is the two hormonal cause for the hernia development. Number one is the calcitonin gene related peptide and hepatocyte growth factor. These two usually it influence the closure of the hernial sac. If it is so that is the reason so they are established. Another one I want to discuss is the Desardas repair. This is a picture, you can see that it is a Desardas repair where you will do the external oblique aponeurosis will be forming a new mesh. Okay, so the external oblique aponeurosis, here it will be sutured. First you cut the external oblique aponeurosis. Okay, I will try to picture here. So consider this is the external oblique aponeurosis. First you cut, this is the upper leaf and this is the lower leaf. What you have to do, and here will be having your inguinal ligament. You reflect the lower leaf like this. Then you suture the upper leaf to the inguinal ligament. Okay, you will be suturing these two structure. Upper leaf, this upper leaf has to be sutured to the inguinal ligament. So it forms a first layer. Then after that you are making an release incision here. Just above that again making an incision. This upper cut edge has to be sutured to the conjoined tendon. This upper leaf, newly created upper leaf, it will be sutured to the lower leaf, and that forms a new external oblique aponeurosis. Okay, external oblique aponeurosis. This technique is called as Desardas repair. Okay, so you can see this is the patch of the external oblique aponeurosis. It is newly formed and it is physiological, more physiological. So this repair is called as Desardas repair. This is an anatomical repair, open hernia surgery. Okay, next question number 13. Okay, question number 16. What is the name of the surgery? No idea?
TEP.
What you are, yeah, is it TEP? So what you are seeing, this is the balloon. Okay, so this is called a balloon dissector. Okay, balloon dissector. So for doing the TEPP, you need more equipment. Okay, because you have to create a plane. So this is called balloon dissector. You put the balloon dissector and create a plane, then you have to do the surgery. This surgery is TEP, totally extraperitoneal repair. Okay, we'll go to the next question. Question number 16, 17. Okay, all are boundaries of myopectoral orifice of Frouchard except here. What is the answer?
Inguinal ligament.
Yeah, it is inguinal ligament. Okay, so there are boundaries are there. Rectus sheath is one boundary. Pecten pubis, iliopsoas, the other boundaries. Inguinal ligament, it is dividing. Okay, it is dividing. It is midway. If a myopectoral orifice is there, midway inguinal ligament will be present. It is not forming the boundaries. So I will show the image. Can able to understand. So all these things we have discussed in the CME. Same thing I'm showing you. Okay, you can see that the inguinal ligament, it is crossing through the myopectoral orifice. Okay, importance of the myopectoral orifice is it is covers. If you do surgery, you have to cover all these region. That is, you will cover the that is a direct hernia, indirect hernia, and femoral hernia. These are the boundaries. Okay, you can see the rectus abdominis. It is medially, it is forming lateral border of the rectus abdominis. Okay, and here you can able to see that these are the femoral region and these are the inguinal region. Iliopsoas muscle is forming, and inguinal ligament you can see it is passing. It is not forming the boundary at all. Okay, we'll go to question number. Next. Okay, this type of inguinal hernia, hernial sac confined to the inguinal canal is called as? Yeah, it is called as bubonosal. There are three types are there. One is you can broadly divide it into complete inguinal hernia or incomplete inguinal hernia. Complete inguinal hernia, the hernial sac will descend completely down into the scrotum. That is complete. The typical example is the congenital inguinal hernia. Congenital is the typical example. Incomplete, there are two types. One is the bubonosal, where the sac or the content will be present within the inguinal canal, whereas the funiculaceal, it descend down into the up to the root of the testis, or up to the upper pole of the testis, root of the scrotum or upper pole of the testis. That is called funiculaceal. Is it visible? Screen is visible?
No, sir.
No,
Oh, sir. Just hold on. Now you can able to see, no?
yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Okay. The next question is expansive cough impulse is seen in all the swellings except hernia, meningocele, hemangioma, empyema necessitates. So the answer for this question is the hemangioma. Hemangioma usually will be seeing the compressibility. Okay, it is nothing but the dilatation of the blood vessels. It is a compressibility. All this for expansile cough impulse you have to have it should be connected to a preformed cavity. For example, hernia, it is an abdominal cavity. Meningocele, it is cranial cavity. Here the empyema, it is a thoracic cavity. Okay, then only you will be having that expansile cough impulse. Question number 33. Okay, we'll go to the next question. This we discussed. Okay. Just hold on. No visible, no?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Can I able to see that, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah. 45-year-old male patient presented with the right inguinal hernia on Zeeman test. Impulse felt at index finger. What is the diagnosis? This is again a clinical based question. What is the diagnosis?
Indirect hernia.
Yeah, if it is impulse felt at the index finger, it is indirect. If it is middle finger, it is direct. If it felt at the ring finger, it is an femoral hernia. So answer for this question is the indirect. Okay, next question. Lies below and lateral to pubic tubercle. What is the diagnosis?
Femoral.
Femoral.
Femoral. Yeah, above and medial, that is groin hernia. Below and lateral, it is a femoral hernia. Okay, in original Bessini, what suture is used for repair?
Silk.
Yeah, it is silk suture. Okay, the suture they used, it is not Prolene. They first initially they used the silk suture. Only in the modified Bessini they changed to polypropylene. Okay, polypropylene. Okay. Next question. What is the answer? Naigus classification. Left-sided inguinal hernia already underwent surgery for left-side inguinal hernia. What is the answer? This is a recurrence. Number one, it is recurrent. Recurrence, it comes under
4B.
4.
or B or A?
Yes, sir.
A. I am not able to see that. No, 1 second. Not able to see the screen. No, 1 second. 1 second. Okay. Question number 22. Okay, what is the ideal size for mesh laparoscopic inguinal hernia repair?
So 10/15.
10 over 15. Sir also told it is 15 cross because I told the commercially available mesh, it will come in some fixed size only 11 into 6, 15 into 15, 30 into 30 and 7.5 into 15 centimeter. These are the commercially available meshes. But you have to customize the mesh. For a laparoscopic inguinal hernia, you have to customize. You have to assess that and plan in such a way that you have to fix the mesh. Don't have, you should not have any excess amount of mesh also. 1 second, 30. Is that? Okay, so this is again taken the words taken from the Bayesian law. You can see that a 10 into 15 centimeter size mesh. Okay, so but usually we will take 15 into 15 centimeter mesh. You have to customize the mesh. So we used to prefer either 10 into 15 centimeter or 12 into 15 centimeter mesh. But if you, they ask in the exam, you have to follow the standard textbook like this. You have to follow 10 into 15 centimeter size of the mesh. So that will be an ideal answer. Okay, we will discuss something about this. 38. Okay. This question we have not discussed. What is this? What are the geometrical shapes that will be associated with the inguinal canal, laparoscopic inguinal canal anatomy? All except. What is the answer? Circle, square, rectangle.
Square, sir.
Square. Okay. Okay, so now you are discussing that is the same thing. Discussing geometrical shape. Circle is circle of death. Circle of death means it is corona. Otherwise, it is called as corona mortis, which is nothing but there will be an anastomosis between external iliac vessel and internal iliac vessel. So if you see the picture, you can see, you can able to see that inferior epigastric vessel. Okay, and here the from that obturator artery. Okay, obturator from the obturator. So this is external iliac and this is external iliac and this is the external iliac and this is the internal iliac. There is a, it forms an anastomosis. Okay, this region is called as circle of death. Otherwise, it is called as corona mortis because any bleeding happens, definitely it is connected with the major vessels. There will be a torrential bleed. So that's why it's called corona mortis, a circle of death. Another this one shape is the rectangle, that is trapezoid of disaster. Trapezoid of disaster, which is nothing but which includes both the triangles. That is the triangle of doom and triangle of pain. That is called as trapezoid of disaster. Okay, so that question we're going to discuss. Last some more questions only. We'll finish up this one. Okay, what is this intraoperative picture of hernia surgery? Herniotomy done. Contents in what is the diagnosis?
Epiplosion.
Yeah, what you are seeing is the content is the omentum. What you are seeing is the omentum. See, this entire part is the omentum. Okay, so this is an epiplosil or omentosil. Go to the question number 42. Okay, so this all are basic principles of surgical repair of an hernia except. What is the answer? All these things I have taken from Bailey and Lowe only. This is straightforward. If you read Bailey, it is very easy to. The answer for this question is it is a
Temporary reinforcement.
except it. Yeah, it is temporary reinforcement. You should do a permanent reinforcement, not the temporary one. Okay, you try to do the permanent reinforcement so that the patient will be benefited. If you do temporary reinforcement, and again patient will be getting the recurrence. Okay, so this is the basic principles of surgical approach to hernia. Number one is the reduction of the hernia. Number two is excision and closure of peritoneal sac. Number three is reapproximation of walls of the neck. Number four is the permanent reinforcement. Okay, so these are all surgical principles of inguinal hernia surgery. Okay, we'll go to the next question. Last few questions are there. 5 or 6 questions we will finish up. Okay, suturing the mesh edge to edge into a defect is called as what technique?
Inlay.
Yeah, this is called inlay technique. Okay, inlay technique. Okay, the mesh can be used in all the ways except what are the ways mesh can be you can use? You can bridge the defect, you can augment a repair, you can plug a defect. Ideally, you have to close the defect. It is not to open a defect. Okay, the answer for this question is the except it is to open a defect. So that is the answer. I will show that reference. The first option. This is for, okay, this we already discussed. Okay, so this is answer for that question. That is the to bridge the defect, to plug the defect, to augment a repair. And this is the answer for the next question. That is a well-placed mesh. Okay, well-placed mesh should overlap all around the margins of the defect at least 2 centimeter. So minimum 2 centimeter, maximum 5 centimeter possible. This is an okay. And this is a question just now we discussed. That is the suturing a mesh edge to edge is called as inlay repair. Okay, inlay repair. Okay, we'll go to the next question. Last few questions are there. Okay, so what is the answer for this question? Post-operative case of left inguinal herniaplasty, numbness, burning sensation, discomfort on inner aspect of left thigh. It is ideal and genital branch of GFN. Okay, so it's an ideal answer for this question is GFN. What is the name of this operation? You are seeing something?
Tanner slide.
Yeah, it is called Tanner slide. That is this is a modified Basinis repair where you will do this approximation of conjoint tendon and inguinal ligament, and there will be tension will be there. So this relieve the tension. You have to put an Over the anterior rectus sheath, you put a slide release incision that is called a Tanner slide. Okay, we'll finish up the last question. Okay, so during laparoscopic repair, tack is placed below the iliopubic tract. Patient complains of pain and loss of sensation on the upper thigh. What nerve is injured? It is lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh. Okay, so otherwise you can call it as meralgia parasthetica. Okay, it is otherwise called as meralgia parasthetica. Injury to the lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh. Anything you missed out? I just want to highlight this triangle of pain. We will finish up with this. So what is this triangle of pain, which is nothing but it is a triangle just lateral to the triangle of doom. The boundaries, medially it is formed by the gonadal vessels. You can see that it is medially by the gonadal vessels, and above by the iliopubic tract IPT, and below laterally by the reflected portion of peritoneum. Okay, there are 4 nerves are going through this triangle. So number 1 is femoral nerve, number 2 is femoral branch of GFN and anterior cutaneous nerve of thigh and lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh. So there is more chances to get injury, particularly when you are fire tacker over this location. Post-operatively, patient will be having continuous pain. So that's why it's called as triangle of pain. So these 2 triangles are very important, and boundaries and contents are very important in the laparoscopic anatomy of the inguinal canal. Just hold on.